I am the whitest guy you know.
That's a way to lead it. You are the
It's like,
whitest guy I know. Yeah. That's
I mean,
it's not for 2023, right?
I know it's probably not a good thing to
I
say
should be
that.
like, I can't see any of your color. None. I'm
I
blind
have
to
some
it.
color. You know, I have like a Mediterranean in me, kind of like Greek. So my mom was adopted. So who knows what's in? Who knows where I come from in this world?
You know they have DNA tests for that now.
I've done it. That's what I'm saying. But my dad's side is like pure Irish.
Yeah.
So
How much Martian?
we haven't gotten the rest of those results left.
Fair.
So, well, what's going on, neighbors? How are you guys? We have a special guest. We have a teacher in the house. We're going to be learning about some tales of what happens at schools. Who knows? Come join us on this episode of Neighbors Don't Knock.
Welcome to Neighbors Don't Knock, the show that brings you hilarious, unapologetic conversations only these neighbors can have. Join them and guests in their weekly mission to expand the neighborhood. Now, here's your hosts, Brian Chambers and Philip Goffrey.
What's going on, Philip?
I'm grooving to our music, you know.
Grooving to our music. We always groove to our music.
Just chilling.
And if you haven't grooved to our music, well, then you're not watching enough Neighbors Don't Knock.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, what's going on?
You came just in time.
Neighbors. You know, you have now joined the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, you know, the show where neighbors get together, where we meet other neighbors, businesses, connect with the world around us, and learn a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, and typically I would say anywhere you get your podcast, you might be listening, but that tends to change like every month now. Podcast services are just, you know, coming and going.
I know,
like
but
traffic.
Just to get it out of the way, if you guys would do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you never miss any content. Follow, like, and subscribe on social media. You never know what neighbors are going to stop by and how much fun we are having until you join us. So make sure you do it. That was harsh.
That was the hard. You don't know what you're missing.
You don't know. They don't know what they're missing. They don't know.
They're here.
But we're going to get right into our guest. Our guest today is someone who I met a long time ago. She is a lifelong learner and educator of over 12 years. I'd say 12 years, maybe more. I'd like to think that those that become teachers start even before they say they're teachers, you know.
9 years old. Just,
Right?
you know, you might want to consider a different approach to what you're doing.
She's currently the head theater director and fine arts department head at her school. In addition to theater, she coaches the school's dance and pep teams. So she's a choreographer. So that's a lot. That's a lot going on right there. She's a mentor for the district. She also has her own podcast, and we are really excited to have her on the show. So let's give a warm Neighbors Don't Knock welcome for Scara. Hello, how are you?
Hello, thank you.
What's going on? Welcome to the show. I know you hear that? You hear that applause? That's how many people we got in studio for you. We
Excellent. I love it.
hire them to sit in the background. So when we introduce guests, and you guys can go now.
Yeah. Since you couldn't.
Well, how do I get that gig?
You know,
It's volunteer.
you can apply. You can apply online.
Do we have applications for that?
We will as of tomorrow.
So what's going on? How are you doing? It's been so long since I've actually seen you, and I mean, I know we're not in the same space, but it's good to see you through
Right.
even virtually. So
That's right. Virtual space.
Yeah, I mean, in a movement way, not just pictures on the socials. You know, going pretty well. It's been a very busy, I feel like 20 years since I've seen you.
maybe
Probably more like 10.
Yeah, I would say maybe closer to 10 because I think we both got married right around the same time, similar within like a year or two of each other. I think I want to say.
Were we married when we did our last show together?
I can't remember. I think the last show we ended up doing was it Buddy Holly's story? No.
Okay, then yes, I was either engaged or married.
Happy Days. It was Happy Days.
Happy Days, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we did Happy Days, the musical.
So that was about 10 years.
Okay, so all right, a good decade there. So
Yeah.
well, I'm excited, and you know, you've been busy, obviously, looking at at your bio here. You've been very, very busy.
Seriously, it's like the scrolls.
Yeah.
And here's
Yeah.
what she's
So,
done.
so I make a joke because and I mentioned on my podcast that I keep myself busy, because if I don't keep myself busy, then I think. That's it.
That's it.
I was like, I was waiting
I
for
think.
that.
And then the
We don't need that going on, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
bad things happen to me too.
Do you
I
do
get
that to
it.
your students? Yeah, just a definite stop, a hard stop right there, and then just like,
Why do you have so much
What?
after schoolwork? Because
Why
can't
teach
even
middle
think.
school if you can't mess with them, right?
Ah.
I like that, and we're definitely going to get into that because I do know that you have some stories about teaching that but we're going to get into your podcast in just a little bit. But one thing the reason we wanted to reach out to you and thank you for coming on the show. We really
Indeed.
appreciate you taking
Thank you for
time.
having me.
Being a longtime teacher and involved in a lot of different areas of the school, you've seen a lot of changes, especially, talking over the past 12 years. And
Yes.
I know pandemic was its own thing, and we're not going to dive into the bubble and pandemic and all that, but it has
The great reset button.
yeah, whatever you want to call it,
Like the flash forward event.
What it would be interesting to see in our history books what that actually goes down as, in the next 50 years, what kids are referring to,
Right.
I'd be very curious. But
They're going to call it the great overreaction of all time. Oh, yeah, that was the great overreaction. I remember that
Well,
era.
but it is their generation's 9/11, right? So,
Indeed.
for us that was traumatic, and for them this was traumatic.
I guess, but 9/11 was some serious stuff. I mean, compared to what I shouldn't say that COVID wasn't serious, because that it was.
Of course.
There was serious ramifications to that.
If you think about it from a kid's perspective, right?
It looks a little different.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's from the kid's perspective. It was traumatic.
Okay, that's I can see that's fair enough. But let me ask you this: as a teacher, and over the past decade or so, what's been the biggest thing with teachers? What's been the biggest challenges, in your opinion, with what teachers have?
She's like,
Yeah,
I have to choose one.
Well, I guess what would be more of your top? Because is it parents or is it students?
So there's so many nuances here, right? Because it depends on where you work. It depends on the level that you work. I would say, when you say, like, is it the students or the parents? Well, if you tend to work in a higher SES area, then you are dealing more with parents. So your challenge is probably more the parents, because the students have been taught to behave. And so they may have more of that kind of home lessons. And then you're having to, I don't want to say satiate the parents, but sometimes, right? And then if you're in a lower SES, it does tend to be the children, because they often are latchkey, or they have two working parents. They haven't had the same stability or life lessons at home, and they're having to learn them in your classroom. So it really does depend where you are. It's not such an easy answer as I know that you would like to have.
Oh no, we don't go for easy on the.
Indeed.
There's no easy in education.
But now, so educate the ignorant mouth breathers like me. SES, this is socioeconomic security or status?
Status.
Or is that status?
Social economic status, right? So how much money you have.
Fair.
And it's the easiest way to determine. And really, it's more like, are you at a Title I school where there's a high number of free and reduced lunches that happen? Or are you at a school where they don't have to worry about where they're going to eat next? They've always got everything that they need. They're going to go home to a meal, whereas some kids won't at other schools. So it really is, it's situational. I've worked at both places.
Well, we hear a lot. And you can tell me, do you feel this is blown out of proportion in the media? Because we hear a lot that teachers are getting burned out, and there's a lot of overturn. Is that?
It's not.
That's true.
It's incredibly true.
Okay.
My daughter last year went through, both of her teachers quit mid-year.
Oh, wow.
She's in elementary, and she had two teachers, and she went through at least 6-7 long-term subs And they, they'd come in, they do a little bit, they planned to stay the year and they ended up not. It's a difficult job and it's becoming more difficult. And I think it does come back to COVID, and it's because the expectation is that we're keeping up with the educational part and we're keeping up with where they should be in these arbitrary lines we've created on when kids should know information, right? So in whatever grade they learn about Texas history versus world history or whatever. And it's these arbitrary lines we've created, and we're trying to keep them accountable to those lines while not really letting it sink that they missed 2 years of school. And then they had another year where they had to learn to reschool. So
Yeah.
like they had to learn to student again, is what I call it. And so really we're expecting them to not be behind while also they are, and they're still children. And I think that to me, I think is the biggest challenge, or the biggest thing that teachers are hopefully coming to realize, or maybe trying to think through, is at the end of the day, they're children. Even the high schoolers,
So
they're not.
You think that maybe it's a patience thing with a lot of these teachers, that they just don't have, they need more of it at this point in time than they ever have. Is that what you're maybe saying a little bit?
Yeah, I could see how as a teacher you need more patience, but it's all the work and expectations that's being put from the top down on us,
okay,
to put down onto the students, right? And we still have to do all the paperwork, but nobody's considering the fact that that was a traumatic event and a difficult few years for us. It was incredibly stressful to teach from home, or to come in all day every day and have students at desks 5 feet away from each other and wear a mask, and just the verbal ramifications. You're an actor, can you imagine having to teach all day, like in a mask? It's hot, it's difficult.
Oh, yeah.
We did it, but what about the thinking through the mental ramifications for us as humans? We're not bots. We can't continue to do this the way that they want us to. It'd be great if we didn't miss 3 years of life.
Yeah.
And weren't catching up.
Well, okay, so fast forward now, right? As far as what's going now, do you feel, and you mentioned this, that there's a lot more put on you as from the top? Do you think that they're just pushing more onto the teachers because they can, or they don't know what to do?
So it's not that there is more put on our plate necessarily. It's the same amount put on our plate, and these students have missed 3 years, right? So it's accumulated. And it's like, well, they still need to meet these deadlines. They still need to know these things, but they didn't get the last 3 years or whatever, right? So it's not necessarily, it's a little bit difficult to kind of explain, right? Unless you're here and in it and feel it. And it's not like, here's more paperwork or here's more classes. It's still teach your same classes and get these kids to grow 3 years and not just one now.
Okay. I mean, I'm picturing like Scrooge, like here's one more coal for you to the teachers, and then I'm picturing like a Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
and
you're
like,
always picturing a Muppet Christmas.
I am. Everything. If we could just Muppet ourselves, just Muppet the world. I mean, how great would that be?
It feels like that. It feels like that when you get the one more email or the one more come to this meeting while we're like, but I need to do this and I need to grade and I need to, right? So it feels like lumping of coals sometimes.
And in fairness, if you want a good, Muppet show, just watch the U.S. Congress. It's
Okay. First of all,
there is one.
You joke, but you know how many people would probably tune in if it was Muppets up there on like Speaker of the House with a little gavel going,
yes,
you might save politics.
I'm telling you, man.
Just like those videos where it's the Muppets doing the mouths, right? But the actual audio of the Congress. I love it.
Just go
brilliant right here on Neighbors Don't Knock.
Just
you want to get young people to watch Senate hearings.
Yeah. Just go way like off the deep end with it. Just do like sock puppets. Right. The whole thing.
That would be hilarious.
I think it would be.
I think it'd be great. The debate, they would debate themselves. Just
so okay, so I've got a question.
Taxes. What are you talking about? I mean, I'm entertained.
You're not Speaker of the House. You're fired. So
Impeachment.
I have a question. I'm not sure if this is too deep in the rabbit hole or not, or down the rabbit hole rather. But do you keep kind of an ear to the ground with whether or not this is happening internationally, or is the teacher burnout more of a U.S. problem as far as you know?
It's more of a Western world as far as I know. Not worldly, but not US.
Fair enough.
So I do know, I have spoken with educators in like the UK, and I do know that it's very similar type of feel and thoughts and struggles.
So things that you deal with in the classroom, you know, I know, and we can kind of get, this will tie into your podcast a little bit. Okay. The name of your podcast is Bad Teacher Tales Podcast.
It is.
And well, first of all, it's not really a stretch to ask how you came up with that, but I'm going to ask how you came up with that, or at least I guess the better question is, why did you decide to make a podcast about it? Because I know there's a lot of different platforms that you could talk about teacher tales, good, bad, and ridiculous all over the place. Why make a podcast?
So I wanted to give teachers an outlet to share the real things that are happening in education that they can't share because of anonymity, right? So I know a lot of I know a lot of educators that feel like they can't share the truth of what they experience because they're afraid of losing a job or offending someone, getting pushback, because there are administrators that will push back when there's negative things spoken about education and about, schools in particular, right? So the aim of my podcast is to give them that platform and to keep it anonymous. They can submit as much or little information about themselves to share as possible. But at the end of the day, it's the story that is the truth and kind of an eye-opener, I hope, into our world sometimes. And Bad Teacher Tales, of course, is a play on words, right? We're not bad teachers, but sometimes we're made out to be, when really that's not what's happening. Right.
Now, is that you and your co-host then share the stories on behalf of the teachers that submit them, or do you give them the opportunity to like do the whole robot voice and blurry face deal and like come on the show?
Unsolved mysteries.
Totally.
I don't think I could listen to the robot voice that much, but no. So right. So it has developed into, there's been a couple changes in co-hosts. We're still newish. We only have 10 episodes, 11 tomorrow. But so it has developed into my podcast and me sharing the tale with a guest host and them kind of reacting and us talking through some of the, the key points of whatever tale was shared. And then, so that's our main segment, but some of the parts I sometimes like more is our segments where it's why we do this. So things that are like the heartwarming things that keep us coming back, right? So sometimes we need something to get us back in the door.
A little bit, yeah.
Let me ask you this, and is there an example? Well, you were talking about something traumatic that someone sent into you, and not that we want to hear that the worst parts about it, but like what kind of examples when you were talking about when there's pushback? You're mentioning that there was pushback. What kind of examples would you be talking about in those instances?
So it's more of a we don't want to share negative light on education, I feel like. And I couldn't even tell you because I have no problem sharing my stories. I also feel like I do things in a respectable way, or a way that I'm not disparaging to whomever I might be talking about, right? So and my own stories, I want to be careful because at the end of the day, everybody's human and has a bad day every once in a while. So some of these stories could be just us or others being human. And when you're on our side, it might be a lot of bad human behavior that we're getting in a day, and it culminates, right? So and I really wish I could tell you why the feel of pushback. I just know it exists.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, you see a lot on social media where a teacher just goes out to her car and then records herself just in tears or something. And to me, it's always interesting. I don't think I could bring myself to do that, to, even as upset, if I'm that upset, I don't want anything to do with social media at that.
Right.
And I think it's very odd, and maybe you can speak to this about maybe people that you've met. I think it's odd that I see a lot of teachers go to do this, and this maybe is just a document.
I feel like now it's because people aren't really feeling how bad it's gotten for some of us, right? So it's more of a like, this is how bad. Hello world, look, I'm having to sit in my car and cry at this point. And actually, a parent made me cry today for the first time in like 2 years. And I've gotten much better at not letting things affect me emotionally. And when I am told that I'm not willing to compromise, and that basically I'm made to feel like I don't want the best things for my students, that hurts me, right? It hurts me because I teach human behavior, and I will tell my students, like, my first priority is your safety. And that includes emotional safety, right? So I want to teach you to theater, and I also want to teach you to human. And your emotional safety is one of my top priorities. And so I do a lot of things to make sure that that happens. And for a parent for their perspective of me, right? And I have to remind myself of that. Based on their interactions, their perspective of me is that I am not a human that cares in that way. It's hurtful. And I think that's what made me cry, not necessarily the parent, but the fact that that's what I somehow put out into the world with this other human. And it's not what I want from anybody. So what do I do to fix it is for, my goal personally. But it gets difficult when you're putting your heart and soul into other people's children, and then their response is to treat you a way that sometimes is inappropriate.
I can imagine that's really, really difficult, but somebody gave me sage advice once upon a time, and that's that you might be right. They may have been having a bad day. It may also be that they just have a skewed perspective, and you have to remind yourself of that. They also might just be a total asshole. So,
there
are some. I'm sorry.
Or all three.
Sorry, parents. All three. The trifecta. The triple.
the
triple.
Oh,
are you a triple threat parent out there?
That was one of my favorite moments in my professional career. One of the guys I was working with, I was telling a story similar to that about something that really, really upset me and really hurt my feelings. And the guy was like, Phil, you ever considered that he might just be an asshole? Like a light went off, I was like,
Rudy.
Oh my gosh, you're an asshole. Yeah, it was great. So
we can all assholes at times, though, right? Like, it's
this
not,
is true.
it doesn't make you an asshole.
Before coffee.
Yeah, before coffee.
Yes, I tell my students all the time, like, I don't even like myself before coffee.
Yeah, no, I don't like that the sun shines before coffee.
Yeah. Okay, before we get to the students, the children, they need us. They need us. So
the students, like Mr. Smithers.
Before we get to this, the children, they need us. So, but before we get to that, I mean, there's again, I just looking for firsthand experience or more of your perspective on this. Is there been a lot of teachers that are pushing their own agendas in classrooms? Because we hear that stuff. Well,
no,
all over. No. So I just want to bust that myth out of the way. Right?
Thank you. It's that meme. Like, if I
very small percentage of people somewhere, it's like a 1%, like, some one random person somewhere. I mean,
are there assholes in every walk of life? Right. So are there bad businessmen? Are there bad waiters? Are there bad everything? Right. There are actual bad teachers. Right. And sure, it happens. I'm sure it happens. Those are the ones we see because
we shine the biggest light on the, on the boo-boo.
Right. And if we could indoctrinate,
let's get the click.
If we could get your children to do things, it would be their work.
That might be the best answer I've ever heard regarding that topic. I like that a lot.
I love that. Well,
I had to lean into that one, right? It's like,
oh my gosh, well done, good. Well done. That deserves another. That deserves another cheer. Excellent.
You may have to consider working that in as a tagline on your podcast. That's a pretty good one.
Thank you. I like it.
Is that how you guys go outro every day?
We could get your students to do things. It would be their work. That's amazing.
All
I
right,
dig it.
so let's jump to the students because kids say the darndest things. We all know that. We laugh at it, but we're gonna kind of venture into the
Billy, in no way is this conversation appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, what is something that sticks out to you that a kid has said to where you have to draw a line where it's not funny anymore? It's just like,
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
like when we are getting off the bus after seeing a theatrical performance at the high school, tells the bus driver, suck my d-.
oh,
You're talking about that?
well,
Wow.
well, wow,
Wow.
wow.
Just straight up like, hey, Bussy. That's like,
Oh my, what? I don't even know what I would do if I was the bus driver. Like,
I
maybe
don't think
like,
she knew what
like,
to do.
maybe accidentally close the door early or something and like get him like half caught, just enough to nick him.
I don't know, but you might want to call the parents and suggest
I'm
the
just
kid gets into
kidding.
politics. Yeah,
Loom over his
made for
head.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, the ironic thing was the bus driver was the parent of another child that was in that same child's class.
Oh my,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure
Wow.
that the child that said it realized that, right? Probably
Can I
not.
ask the age range or the grade level?
But he had 7th grade.
About 7th. Wow,
wow.
wow. Oh my
Old
God.
enough to know.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Oh,
saying,
they know. Oh,
yeah.
they have a very.
Wow.
They have a their vocabulary is extensive.
okay.
They
So-
often don't know what things mean. There's an episode we get into page. There's an episode where I get into, I call it the page 69 days.
Oh, yeah. And you guys are going to go to Bad Teacher Tales podcast to check that out.
Yeah. What number are we thinking? 69, dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they all laugh and you're like, what's funny? I don't understand. Can you explain it to me?
Oh man, that you're a
That
better
sounds like-
person.
yeah.
You're a better person than I. Now I'm going back to, because I was in public school up to high school. So
You ruffian.
my middle school days. Yeah, but it was different when I got to private school in high school. There was like a no nonsense type. The tall, like they could. There's a lot more that could happen to you if you screwed around.
You can't grab my ear. Watch me, kid.
I mean, yeah, there.
Ow, ow.
A lot more.
It's a problem if you like it.
Neighbors Don't Knock is produced by C&G Communications. C&G specializes in small batch voiceover and video production for commercial media, podcasting, radio, and more.
Combining years of experience in podcasting, acting, and sales, C&G offers big media products at small business prices.
That's right. To learn more, visit their Facebook page or email them directly at admin@cngcommunications.com.
They do probably understand a lot more now with, those little miniature computers in their hands.
Yeah.
And so they probably do know more, but
So the school
to wait for the dial-up.
that you teach at, without giving up that school's name, obviously, do they allow electronics on campus? Like the kids can have cell phones and all that
on
stuff?
camp, yes. So a policy is in the backpack. And so it stays in the backpack. I shouldn't see it. I shouldn't see it in your back pocket, or I can take it. And we can, as the teacher, I can give you permission to use it for whatever purposes for that day, right? So
What are
sometimes
some of the excuses? Because come on,
Pornography.
they've got to have so many excuses of why they need their phone.
Yeah, pornography is the answer.
Yeah. No, I
The
want to know.
only answer.
I want to know an excuse. I want to know an excuse that they would actually say, not what they would be thinking.
my favorite is my mom is calling me.
Okay.
Like, but also, how do you know that your
Why?
mom's calling you and why?
Yeah. Why?
Like, do they not know where you are right now?
Yeah. Like, yeah, she's calling you. She's calling you a dumbass for trying to use that excuse. That's what your mom's calling you. Put your phone away.
Oh, kids say the darndest
They
things.
do. They do. That's
So
a pretty-
I will say I don't have a whole lot of issues with and it's called classroom management, with like these types of behaviors, again, because I kind of established in the beginning, like, these are my expectations and I'm going to hold you to them. And I feel like I create those relationships with my students that they know that I respect them as a human, and I look at them as a human, not as a number in my classroom and somebody else that I just want to do the work and then leave. Right. And so I don't have nearly as many issues as sometimes my colleagues might have. I also have students that I'll have for more than a year, and so I've had a lot more time to create those relationships and get students to work with me, and I have students that often want to be there, right? So I only teach theater 2 and theater 3, so they've chosen to come back. And so there's, again, a lot of different factors into whether or not students are respecting their teachers. Some of them just don't, and it doesn't matter where you are or who you are. And but most of them, I'm at a school that we have a really good crop of kids. There's always the outlier. They are still, like I said earlier, they're still children, and on the whole, they're really good, and they do what they should be doing 90% of the time, if not more. So I don't know, it's just I don't hear a lot of language other than them throwing things out at each other in the hallway and just for to try them out. They're trying it out.
Keep that street cred up in the hall,
Right, definitely. Yeah, at 12.
Yeah. Hey man, priorities to a 12-year-old are very different than an adult.
I tell you though, you're very, very kind. I like what you're saying. You sound like you're a fantastic teacher. I've had some of the more bad teachers in my experience over the years. Most of them were good, but there were a couple of gems out there.
Well, maybe misunderstood a little bit.
Maybe misunderstood, but
maybe.
I'll give you a quick anecdote here. One of my middle school teachers, she had a issue with one of the boys in my class, and one of the boys in my class, this is like 7th, 8th grade-ish range, had an issue with constant erections. So
and you're saying I went there.
So but wait, there's more. So I guess she kind of got used to like catching the expression on his face. I think it's a
okay. Well, hold on. Was he taking care of these things?
No, this was
okay. Just it was happening.
He must have an overactive imagination.
The fact that you had to ask that to clarification says a lot, right?
Well, he mentioned a face.
Yeah.
What face are you making?
I know.
I think it was like a giggling face, like he was just so
okay.
like. But she would call him up to the board to answer problems every single time.
Oh.
Right. And he thought that was hilarious. So he would just turn in profile, hands on his hips.
Like, just showing off.
Yeah. And we had to wear a uniform. We had to wear like slacks
Mr.
and khakis.
Bean in a bathing suit.
Yeah, it was something. So you sound like a nice teacher. She was a little on the mean side.
You can't get those images out of your head ever.
I'm pretty sure that.
Thanks for that.
Away with that.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. See, we're just giving you material for the show. We're helping you out.
Great. I appreciate it.
There, I found out.
I can't get
well,
that.
I guess it's not a punishment if he liked it. Like,
oh Lord.
I mean, that is a mean thing to do as the teacher.
Yeah. Looking back on it, I wonder what was
public
going through her head.
humiliation.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, that's never okay.
There was a lot of that growing up. I mean, I want to say that there's been things in education that's been really nice to see that's changed.
Like math, they changed math.
Yeah.
That has not been nice to. I can no longer help my fourth grader math. Like,
I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah, she's literally told me, "No, Mom, that's not how you add." Basically, like, okay.
I don't think I can go down that rabbit hole because, like, my father's head would explode if he was listening to this episode. I remember algebra nights at the table, my dad like going through, and oh man,
it's straight out of a Pixar movie. Why change math? Math is math. It really is. It's hilarious.
But there have been some great things that have changed that I feel like are good for education. But what's a message that you would give to parents, teachers, and students, one, both, or all three, that you want them to know about what's going on in the schools or with teachers today?
Have grace, and that's really for all of them, right? And I know that's been said a lot lately. It's still true for us educators. It's really still true. There is a lot on our plate in a lot of different ways. There are more and more kids that are being diagnosed with struggles. That's what I call them, challenges, things that they need extra help with. And we have to be able to navigate what each individual child needs in our room. And when you have 30, that's a lot, right? So it's something like, I was at a meeting last night and we were talking about the lesson cycle and monitoring and adjusting kind of stuff. So that would be like, okay, so you're not doing this correctly or you're struggling with this, let me help you get here, right? And he made a comment about how you might do this 30 times in a class period, right? And the comment was made nonchalant, like just thrown out there because it's common knowledge, right? We might have 50 to 100 interactions where we are diagnosing the issue and then we're analyzing the issue, diagnosing the issue, and then coming up with a solution to the issue in a matter of moments, right? And so this is where our brains are and how active and how fast our brains are having to move at that pace. And then doing that times 6 or however many classes you have, times 30, however many children you have in each of those classes. And so by the time we get to the end of the day and the time for us to lesson plan or grade or send you an email back or whatever the extra is that's not directly teaching children, we're exhausted. We're mentally, physically, all the things. So have some grace for your teachers if they're not emailing you back right away, if they didn't answer that question right away, if they forgot something, if they miscommunicated, if things are going to be dropped. But at the end of the day, are they teaching your child? Cool, let's support them.
I mean, I do like that. And I just one last myth that I want to ask, since you unplug, do teachers go out and drink heavily when they get their own time off? Is that a big myth?
I just feel like if you do not have a designated glass for after the school day, you're not a real teacher.
Okay, so half truth there. Depending what your cup of tea is.
I mean, it could be a stemmed glass, it could be a mug, right? But it's something.
Okay, I mean, well warranted in my opinion. So,
I think
Specs gift cards are great for teachers, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there to all you parents listening.
It's not Starbucks anymore.
No, it's not.
It's Specs gift cards for teachers.
Right.
The holiday gift that keeps on giving.
You're like,
right?
I got you a gift card. Like, I'm sorry, thank you. I've been sober 15 years. It's like, they've got meats and cheeses. Get your ass over to Specs.
They have other things there, right? You're all right.
They bake fresh bread and
They do.
cookies and
Some of them
stuff.
do.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
The
I did not know
one.
this.
Big one downtown. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's it, right?
Right.
But
It's just
okay, look, so
there's a deli
speaking
there.
of-
There's a whole deli there.
speaking of teacher gifts in the form of alcohol, there was a student that straight up brought my husband, who was also an educator, like a bottle of alcohol to school and gifted it to him. So
Wow.
let's not do that. We
Oh.
could get in trouble. Like your
really
child.
Private schools, they've done that. Like I've been gifted but it wasn't during school hours. It was it was
That's
after.
even worse. Some
It was-
kid
it
comes
was-
up to
it
you
was-
behind your car.
No. That's
Mr. Chambers,
that's
I got you a
creepy.
little.
The deal.
That's creepy.
What do you say I get at least
a
a B tomorrow, huh?
presentation, it was like presentation where they at the end of a show or whatever, they do like a director's gift, and they've done not like you get like a cart rolled up and be like, here you go, but they've it's in a bag, and I don't open the gift in front of kids and stuff like that. So it's but I have before been gifted like a bottle of wine or something.
I love that. I'm picturing a seventh grader walking up with like a bottle of scotch. Thank you, Indigo. We don't do this here in this country. It's just
I'm sorry.
It's just
I mean, it
not
was
a-
good, but it was essentially what happened, right? So like
Yeah. So Specs gift cards,
that's
not so
that's
much.
not good. So gift cards are the way to go. Parents
Yes.
and kids, don't bring.
I brought your favorite pack of smokes.
There's just certain no gifts. In fact, maybe Yeah, that's going to have to be an episode.
We're gonna have to just stop there.
Scary.
Right?
Scary, you're going to have to do an episode where, gifts that have been brought and gifts that should be brought. Maybe a
That actually that is on our docket.
Oh,
So
is
that has
Okay.
been discussed. Like these are like so we want to discuss some things that we've been given that like let's not do this, and then like some things that were amazing and like really just kind of a gift giving episode. But that is on our in our
love
future.
I do love
that too. I love that. I've got a question regarding the whole inappropriate gift thing, or at least a branch of it. So the smokes part, are kids these days still into like the cigarettes and stuff, or is it being replaced with other weird things like vaping and
Vaping? It's all vaping now, and there's a new law that if a child is caught with a vape, doesn't, or if I have it and another child uses it, us both, right, then they automatically must serve or like go to alternative school. I think it's something like dramatic. Oh yeah.
Wow. I didn't know.
Is that a text?
Oh yeah, it's serious. It you know what, it has I think helped this year because I don't think I've heard of any vapes on campus, and it was happening all the time last year.
Is that a Texas thing or a federal thing?
That's a good question. I do not have the answer.
Well, at least we know it's
Google
a
that,
Texas
yeah.
thing right now.
Yeah.
So
One down.
At least,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can check that box. Just not sure if we can check two. I like
Exactly.
But I've got some homework for you. That would be to find out and report back
I
what you
appreciate
learned
that.
about this law.
Start
I-
writing down
and-
all of
yeah.
our stories and just submit it. We'll just,
Yeah.
I think we probably, between the two of you and I, we probably have like 2 seasons for you.
Indeed. No, I appreciate the homework too, because without it, I might start thinking, and that's bad things happen.
That's the bad.
How can you get us to do the assignment? That's the question.
Building relationships.
Well, let's before we get you out of here, and again, if you guys want to check out Bad Teacher Tales podcast, the link is in the episode description. You can find them on Apple Podcasts or probably wherever you get your podcast, but check it out. But our link is going to be below.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to listen to a few, and I can tell you, you will be shocked at some of these stories. There's no question about
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite so far?
it. No, I don't have a favorite so far, but I was listening to your
I have a shocking one.
I was listening to the intro of your most recent episode actually today, and when you mentioned that somebody actually, like a parent, had pushed you out of the way to get into I was like, mind blown, right? Like,
That is not my only scary parent,
The unborn
parent
child
moment. So stay tuned.
The unborn
Really?
child one was for me. I was like, whoa, like that was kind of like I was like
Say that again. The which one?
the unborn child. When you guys were mentioning that one to me, I was like, that whoa. Like there was some heart-wrenching stuff in there, and some, there's I love that there's a bit of humor that you guys can laugh at some of this. I think that's important because some of it is dramatic on both sides, and we're the same way. We got to be able to laugh sometimes, even at the dark stuff, just to get through it, and I think that's very nice that you guys allow that outlet, but at the same time, it is very informative about things that are going on and a little bit scary at times.
Yes.
To hear some of that.
Yep.
Now,
I mean, there's an episode called "But There's a Kid Trying to Kill Me," and that's exactly what is happening in that story. So,
yeah, it's I hope that does not happen. I hope that that is all where that story lies. But let me ask you this: with the podcast, what do you guys see happening with it? Do you have any plans right now for it, or right now you're just kind of seeing how it goes and being that platform for voice for those teachers?
yeah, I'm just seeing how it goes. As long as I have time and interest and enjoying it, then I'll keep doing it. And I mean, I'd love to grow it. It'd be fun. It'd be nice to eventually make some extra side hustle money on it, right? Because I am still a teacher. My husband's a teacher. Let's do the math. We like to buy groceries and feed our children, but it's fun, and I like having these conversations. I like providing this information to non-educators. I like giving educators a place they can come and feel like I'm not alone, and I'm not crazy for having this student that's doing this, or this parent that's treating me this way, or whatever the case may be.
I like it. I think you have a very entertaining platform. I think it's interesting. I think that it checks all the boxes between, like Brian said, laughter, humor, emotional, as well as
Ridiculous.
educational and ridiculous. So So thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
it. And we will have all the links in our episode description for our viewers and our listeners to find you. But just for the sake of having it actually on the recording, where can we find your podcast?
Wherever you get your podcast. So
No.
yeah, really, I'm on most major platforms and a lot of small ones that I've never heard of.
Video as well, or just audio right now?
Just audio. I do too much to try to get it together for video as well.
We can
Absolutely.
relate. We understand. It's quite the endeavor.
Well, if you want to hear tales from Scara and her co-host, you can go find the Bad Teacher Tales podcast and give it a listen. But we just want to thank you for spending time with us and educating us a little bit, because there was some things that I learned today.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And things that I need to make sure I get on to our politicians about too.
Don't wear khakis if you're prone to erections.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Please vote. Please vote.
Yep, there
Please
you go.
vote.
Please, on that note, well, thank you so much for joining us. And for all you neighbors out there, whether you have a business, own a business, or just wanting to stop by and say hi, feel free to reach out to us, follow, like, and subscribe the podcast. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and the little notification bell so you never miss an episode. There's some great guests coming this season.
Indeed. And feel free to write if you have any questions. You can reach us at admin@neighborsdon'tknock.com.
All right, we drop new episodes every Friday. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Out.